Alright guys, hello. I know we haven't been putting much out for videos. I've been insanely busy. Like I said, life has changed. Things are different. Working on building displays downstairs at my building. I have a 14,000 square foot building that's loaded with thousands and thousands of animals. Downstairs I have a retail store called Zoo Creatures. We are doing some changes to that. I want to do displays. I want to do lots of education. I want to do tours and all that, because long term, just breeding countless animals like ball pythons, reticulated pythons, Burmese pythons, and such is always going to be laborious. It's going to cost a lot of money. And let's face it, people don't have money, and myself included. Things are getting tough. I'm also adopting out lots and lots of like breeder ball pythons. So you can buy, let's say, like a pastel butter, pastel lesser, 10-year-old female that lays 12 eggs. I think I have them on my site right now for $125. And I love them, and I want you guys to get them. NewEnglandReptileShop.com. I want to find good homes for a lot of my snakes. And the reason is overhead has skyrocketed here in New Hampshire. I have the second highest utility rate in the country. It's killing me. $12,000 electric bills and unbelievable rodent food bills and everything like that. We're having all sorts of issues trying to weekly get our rodent food, doing all these things. And I'm trying to change the scope of what I'm doing. Certainly I'm breeding lots of reptiles, but I don't want to breed the standard fare. I've backed off on breeding a lot of ball pythons, certainly reticulated pythons, the larger pythons. I want to focus on smaller species. And in the coming months, we're going to elaborate on more of that. But one thing I wanted to show you, let's do a little product review. There's all sorts of products out there. How do you keep your reptiles and keep them well? Clearly, we need equipment. We need proper equipment. And I just got a care package from Reptile Basics. And I find Reptile Basics has pretty much infinitely everything that they have on their site is of quality. It's not these like pseudo gimmicky kind of things. Let's take a look at one of the core weapons, essentially, for heating our animals. Okay, I'm not getting anything special out of this. I like this thermostat. And what does the thermostat do, guys? I know a lot of you go, come on, Kev, that's so stupid. It turns the heat on and off. Okay, indeed correct. So what it's doing is it creates a feedback loop through a probe. So if I open this up, so I have these just like on my shelf. But thermostats are key. And I'm going to tell you a couple things what makes this thermostat maybe a good choice for your next purchase. Okay. So what we do, don't forget I have a degree in computers and electronics. I have 2 degrees. And see right here? This is a thermostat probe. And here's a little thermistor. So we have a little network, and we have an operational amplifier that's sending out a loop, which it's getting input from the hotspot in the cage. So in theory, it's really simple. We take this goes outside the cage, we plug this into 110, we then snake this into the cage, although it can be used for bearded dragons and uromastyx and everything else. This is located in the cage, and what this is doing, this is monitoring the hot basking spot where the animal will lay, where it's going to get to its optimal temperature. So let's say it's a ball python. 95 degrees would be a wonderful basking temperature. So I can control through my digital interface, I can control to 95 degrees. If I want to tell it at nighttime, I want the temperature to drop 10 degrees from 8 to 6 in the morning, I can set that too. If I have a light and I want to dim a light. So the normal standard thermostat is an on and off type network, okay? So that's just that's the most basic down to simple principles as we can get. When we hear about proportional or pro mode, that is actually, now we have something called the triac. The triac's in here, and it's sampling part of that sinusoid. So what it does is, if I have a lamp and I have let's say a 100 watt 100 watt basking halogen, okay? And I want to dim the light, because if I turn it on and off all the time, I'm going to shorten the life of that light bulb by beating on the element of that light. So if I dim it, so what that means is I'm going to apply less power. So my 100 watts, instead of being full blast or off completely, it could go 100 watts, and then it could go down, it could fade down to 40, it could fade down to 20. And what it's trying to do is trying to maintain that hot spot that I've decided. So if I'm a bearded dragon and I want a 120 degree hot spot, so if I put my hand right where a ceramic tile is, I can set it for 120 degrees by locating this to that piece of tile, that piece of slate. I want to hold it down, so a couple zip ties, because remember one thing, if I take this out of the cage and I leave this in the room and I still have the heat source, that heat source is going to be on full blast. As soon as I return this, I'm going to put it here, it's going to start trimming back the heat, and this thing is going to balance. So proportional, it's going to dim, on, off, just on and off. So you can do on and off on any kind of heat tape, heat mat, such, but I recommend with lamps, just a normal 110 power, not LEDs. LEDs are a very, very different thing, because LEDs require a step-down transformer, and it converts it from an AC, so a sinusoidal power source of 110, down to generally 12 to 24 volts. DC, very, very different. Don't ever connect your LED stuff without a step-down transformer and a converter from AC to DC, because LEDs run on DC, direct current. Okay, heat mats. So Ultratherm has been around for a long time. So there are there's a couple different kind of actually there's quite a few heat mats. Right here, this has a very, very nice little connector right here. And this is like really, really high quality. This is super top quality. It doesn't have the sticky back that Zoom Ed has. I like Zoom Ed too. But this is like pretty much, this is the Cadillac. This is just a really, really nice piece of heat mat. It's very, very powerful. This just, it's very hard to screw it up. But this is like just excellent. I've never seen these things go bad. And so the trick, this goes under the enclosure. And what we want to do is we want to reflect the heat upward, because we're providing belly heat. So what you would do, you would take probably some insulation foam. So the white foam or the foil baseboard, the backer, and you put it underneath here. So this holds this against the bottom of the tank, and then that projects the heat to the glass and ultimately confirms belly heat. And if I want to monitor that temperature, I would take this inside the tank, I would tape it down, I'd fashion it so it can't fall off, and I'd monitor that temperature. And I can control it with my thermostat. There's also one thing about my thermostat. I can make it so it's very sensitive. So if I want to set it at 95 degrees for a hot spot, and let's say it drops down to like 92 degrees and then boom, turns back on. That's just going to be my deviation set point. I can cause it, if it goes down 1 degree, to turn back on. But, you know, you're constantly turning it on and off a real lot. So maybe you look for 95, and once it gets down to, say, 91, 90, 92, whatever, boom, it turns back on. So that way you're not swinging like this. You're, you know, just so slow. All right, so anyways, so heat is really, really important, guys, because remember, obviously, these are cold-blooded animals. They're relying on a heat source. But a lot of times people maybe like overlook the necessity and importance of thermostat. So here I'm going to tell you another thing. So something like this, let's say it's rated, I don't know if this one's 1500. So rating, if I take a rack, and let's say I put 2 racks on it, and each rack is, let's say, 400 watts per rack. So those two collectively are 800. Now I'm going to put 3 racks. So now, doing math, it's 1200 watts. Let's say this is rated for 1500 watts. I think right there, the deviation, that difference between 1200 and 1500 is enough to stop me from adding another rack on there. Because what happens is we have this little triac, this little, you know, essentially it's like a power amp. And if we challenge it and we're constantly pulling it to its max, we're going to cook this thermostat. So if you have a thermostat and it's rated for 1,000, kind of think maybe I'm going to drop down like 20% or a little bit, even 25%. So it's like 800 watts. So just think about this because you'll cook your thermostat. But these are just, I love this. This kind of thermostat is wonderful. But we use tons of thermostats here. And not all thermostats are created equal. This is very easy to use. You just get, you know, adjusting and stuff like that. I don't think I need to go into it. It's very, very basic, but it's actually excellent. And remember, it does the nighttime drops and all that. So you can have it do pretty much whatever the hell you need it to do. So what else? Will I look at anything else now? That's the question. Donnie just keeps filming me. And you guys are really bored, right?
I'm bored.
This is... all right. So I did a couple things right there. Oh, I'm going to go show you another thing. All right. Tortoises. I love tortoises. And Mediterranean tortoises, so like testudo, like so Russian tortoises, Hermans, marginated tortoises, and stuff like that. So I got wind of Arcadia's, this is like a new tortoise food. All right, I'm like, okay, it's just another tortoise food. Actually, not. I actually started looking at it, and they really, it doesn't look too exciting for me to eat it, and I love veggies, but the tortoises love this stuff, and they go cuckoo because this has all sorts of natural stuff. So they're using flowers, using all these different plants. This is nothing like our standard fare. So if you have a little tortoise, like a little Mediterranean tortoise especially, but it seems like even my redfoots, my sulcatas, the leopard tortoises, everything is eating, but certainly like Russians and baby Hermans chow this down. This stuff is ridiculous. Okay, so what's it look like? I can't open this. Uh-oh. Now Donnie's got me. He's got me pressed. Okay. All right. This is ridiculous. Look at this. It's friggin' flowers.
Oh, look at that. Oh.
Like, guys, no joke. This is amazing. I got some of it, and I was just like, yeah, whatever. And then I fed it to the tortoises. They eat this stuff dry. And, of course, you want to make sure you soak them. But, all right, this is about as good as you get. Like, it's stellar. And you can also feed things like uromastics and stuff like that. So all sorts of dry desert lizards that are eating wind-borne seeds and wind-borne organic material. This is great. I think the more I actually investigate this, the better it is. But Arcadia is making this. You can get this actually Reptile Bases. That's actually where I got it. It is ridiculous.
Take one of these cubes. Is this the cube?
Why don't you eat it?
No, I was going to say, why don't you take... Hold this. Put a bunch of that shit on the table. There we go. Yeah.
Yes, Donnie, you can see if I divide and open this pressed biscuit, it's full of goodness. Yeah. Donnie, did you know that if you take a tortoise and you give it too much protein, animal-based protein, even worse, if you give it too much protein, probably like 13% or less protein is safe. Why am I talking like that? I don't know. I'm trying to sound like I'm smart, but I'm not. So anyways, actually with tortoises and iguanas and such, you want to give them lots of fiber. So they're constantly browsing. So their browsers are constantly looking for everything to eat. So they always want to eat. So if I give them something that's nutritionally really dense and has tons of protein, even vegetable-based protein, but if you use animal-based protein like a redfoot tortoise, if I put a defrosted mouse down there, they're going to eat it. And if I put 20 down, they're probably going to eat all 20. Is it good for them? No. Here and there, it's actually fine because they are scavengers too, and they definitely will even eat bone. It's really strange. But anyways, so remember, tortoises and a lot of herbivore lizards, like true herbivores like iguanas and such like that, you need to give them lots of stuff to browse so that it satiates them, so there's a lot of fiber. But giving them too much protein, it's actually bad. And what it does is it causes things like gout.
Visceral gout causes renal damage. It can damage the kidneys. And remember another thing, when you're feeding a lot of vegetation, a lot of dry, like dry grasses, any of this stuff, your tortoise or your lizard is going to be very thirsty. So taking your tortoise out 3 times a week and soak it in shallow water for 15 minutes is a great trick. They'll go in there, they'll poop in there, you can throw it away, keeps the enclosure cleaner, super hydrated. But long-term dehydration of tortoises and lizard causes kidney failure, kidney damage. It will cause, you'll obviously see abnormal growth on shells. You get a lot of pyramiding, too much protein, not enough moisture, da-da-da-da. So remember, always err on soak your tortoise, soak your lizard, give them a little bit of water. You'll probably notice, even if you put a bearded dragon, put it in water up to its knees, all of a sudden head goes down and starts drinking. It's great for them. But we can shorten their lives by keeping them in a state of dehydration, even though we think we're doing everything right. But remember, when this food goes into their stomach, as soon as it goes into the stomach, it is grabbing their moisture of their stomach and it is pulling that moisture as it expands. Because if I take something like this, I put that in water, that is very, very compressed. It's going to absorb a ton of water. So remember the same thing, even though your tortoise is eating it, it's going to take the moisture out of that tortoise's body. So you always want to make sure you supplement, okay? So that's enough of that. What else am I going to talk about? Oh.
There's 2 fixtures down there?
I can, yeah. God, those are nice. Okay, here we go. UVB. All right. This stuff is absolutely ridiculous.
Buy this product. Purchase it.
I'm not getting anything out of this, guys. I'm just showing you stuff that I like. I'm grabbing stuff off the shelves. Okay, so anyways, but I was really amazed by this. And Reptile Basics, Donny, maybe give him a link.
We'll give him some.
He's good to me. Okay, all right. This is Boss. Okay, so I'm going to teach you guys a little thing or two.
So, did you know, Donny, that old school fluorescent lamps are almost a thing of the past?
And what we have here, let's not break it. Okay, this is awesome. So if you keep corals and stuff like that,
Or if you growed a certain plant called cannabis.
they love really good lighting. Corals love really good lighting. Okay, so the old school light bulbs, those are LEDs up there, but the old school like fatter light bulbs that we're used to seeing on our fish tanks and stuff like that, those are usually T12s or T8s. So that means, what does it mean? It means they're old and they're stupid compared to what's going on now. So we went from fluorescence, which put out, if you're trying to get UVB and just like full spectrum light, it's very, very hard for a normal light bulb to put that out. And its projection and the power of it isn't really very good. Okay, so what we did is we thinned the bulb. This is called the T5. See that little sucker right there? T5. This little guy has great projection. The 4-foot bulbs are 54 watts. Normally, like an old school 4-foot bulb was about 40 watts. So this is 54. But what's really good is it's far more efficient. So we went from the terrible V12s, V8s. Then we went to power compacts, which is a step up, but not as good as a T5. So T5s are excellent. This can actually put out UVB. Why is UVB important, guys? All right. Hopefully, if you did know that, UVB is very, very important because what it does is it causes the hormones of your little critter, let's say like a bearded dragon. I'm having technical difficulties.
There you go.
It causes the elevation of D3 hormone. And when we have elevated D3, we're simulating something that occurs in natural daylight. Sunlight on a bearded dragon, sunlight on an iguana, on a Euromastix. What that does is that UVB light, that full spectrum, non-filtered sunlight will cause the D3 levels, which even in people, we get it, we go outside for 20 minutes and we even get D3 through our skin, through their skin, and it elevates the D3 levels. When the D3 levels are elevated in the bloodstream, the availability of calcium and other minerals is then pulled in, and it's used for bone growth. It's used for nerve communication. Very, very important. Muscles and nerves are constantly, communicating. So the nerve is sending out signals, and then it's being received. And if we have very, very low calcium present, if we have very low D3, or we have some kind of malnourished animal, what happens is we get this twitching. You'll see a little bearded dragon, and it's just twitching. And what that's doing is that's the nerves that are firing because there's not enough calcium to other mineral availability for the nerves to communicate properly. So something like a UV light like this is excellent. Once again, this is Arcadia. So everything Arcadia puts out is top notch. This is all European. I'll tell you, you really have to give the Europeans a lot of credit. They really put a lot of extra oomph into a lot of things. I mean, it's more money, but it's top notch. Oh, look, D3. That's perfect. So don't put any glass between your T5 full spectrum lamp. And also, I pretty much date your bulb. Your bulb is probably good for about a year at most. Even if the light is still emitting light, its spectrum projection of UVB light is lessened if we actually put this under full spectrum meter. So anyways, so this is really good. Look at the reflector. That is so shiny and awesome. You guys are probably going, what is he rattling on about? Well, this makes all the difference when I'm keeping something like Uromastyx and bearded dragons and all sorts of sun-worshipping creatures. And I provide them a good diet. So I'm gut loading my animals, my insects, my feeder insects. I'm feeding them lots of veggies and doing everything like that. But I don't have the proper light, and I'm not supplementing D3. So the best thing you do, use a light like this, give them calcium, and then this light brings up the D3 level, then the calcium absorbed. If the D3 level is low, the animal's going to ingest everything, and the calcium is actually going to go through its body, and it's not going to be absorbed. If we don't have calcium and D3 proper, we get very weak bones, we get very porous bones. And one thing, I've said this before, that most people do not talk about it. So, calcium and minerals are used to neutralize stomach acids. So when your bearded dragon eats a couple hornworms and it's digesting all those hornworms, it dumps all that stomach acid in there. When it's done digesting, you have to neutralize the acid. How do you do that? You need to find base in your system. So in the bearded dragon, its base, which is going to be things like calcium and any kind of alkalinity, it's going to pull that from the bones. What's not directly in the bloodstream, which is probably not much there. So it needs something much bigger. So it's actually going to pull, it's going to rob calcium and minerals from those strong, healthy bones. Remember, those bones are like these, have all these little pores. It's going to pull that calcium. The calcium is going to go to the stomach, and it's going to neutralize that stomach acid. That process is called metabolic acidosis, and I really, really must get you guys to understand. It's very, very important. You don't see people actually talking about it, but when you feed your animal a lot, it produces a lot of acid. We have to neutralize that acid. So very, very important about calcium. I love ZooMed makes great ultra fine calciums with calcium, just calcium, one with calcium and D3. All right, so here's another super high quality product. This is their LED light bar. I'm using tons of their light bars on my top cages. I'm using the Arcadia LED. So what's really good about LED is they last a long time. Their power consumption is low. They produce far less wasted energy that incandescents and even fluorescents do. So LEDs are really good long term. And it's putting out a spectrum that is absorbed by plants. So my plants are growing like crazy. And if Donny takes a look up here, he'll see, look over here. Yeah. These things grow here. Look right here. It grows. Everything grows like crazy. So that's the Arcadia lighting, and I love those. Those are the Jungle Dawns, and they're really good. Like years ago, we didn't even have any of this kind of stuff like that. So anything that Arcadia puts out that I've played with is awesome. It's a little bit more money, but They're excellent. I mean, I've used them, and I'd rather not waste my time kind of playing with things that are constantly stinking, because so many things in life stink.
I gotta turn my camera on, dude.
You didn't turn your camera on.